Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
Hi, Paul. How's
All good.
things?
Yeah, we're okay. Yeah, busy again, and I'm sure everyone else is. And hello, everybody in chat. Last transmission, and great to be here on another Tuesday. Very warm. I don't know about you guys, but it is for me anyway.
I think it's cooled down a bit, thankfully.
Yeah.
It was like I've been stuck in here editing. It's absolutely sweltering.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's just more emphasis on getting out filming. That's where you want to be, isn't it?
Well, I went out for literally half an hour today with Ian. Ian met up with me, and literally for you guys in chat, to be honest, we just did a little bit of a film. I don't know, a minute and a half of filming the location where that figure ran across, because we did hope we were going to have Joe Hall, Icky Hall, and all Mark Ollie, and they both got back to me. Or I think Mark might have got back to you today, and Joe's got back, and we confirmed that they're going to come on, but obviously not today. And we just thought we could just enlighten or throw a bit of light onto that footage as regards where they were. Do you know something? While we were out there, Linny said to me, I think it were in opening lower down. And he did say that. And I said, no, I think it were a bit higher up. And I think after we've looked at the footage tonight and you've had a look at it, Linny were right, weren't he?
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, it is.
But it doesn't detract from anything. There's nothing there. We've just got a crop of, I think it's corn at the back of that hedgerow. So you will get to see that at some point tonight, whether it's in the next 5 minutes or in the next hour. But other than that, yeah, we're going to just cover a few points tonight, and just, you guys, we just want your questions. Block capitals, please. And Lorraine will field them out to us. But let's just have a quick look who's in here, shall we, Chris? Yeah. We've got Jack Hills in. Good to see you, Jack. OGG. Orphidian, I think that's how you pronounce it. Somebody will correct me. Steve Collin, Fire Spirit. And I saw Gareth Hawkins in earlier. I can't see his name there. And I think Linny will be in. Zero Dawn, Mrs. Linny, Mia Girl. Let's have a look. Fire Spirit, Banshee Studios UK. I've not seen that name before, so good to see you. Let's have a look here. Bad Gaming, Jojo. Good to see you, Jojo. Kevin Wheeler. And there's loads more. I mean, we've got over 100 people in chat. Matthew Cook. So I've only said 25 names at the most, not even that. So I do apologise, and we'll probably just catch up with Nigel Logan. Good to see you, Nigel. You know Nigel, Chris, don't you?
Yeah.
We met Nigel earlier, well, last year. So it were good to meet up with Nigel. And just before we jump into it, just please, bit of support, like and subscribe if you haven't already done it, and totally free, and it just gives us a little bit of incentive if we see numbers go up a bit. And so where are we going tonight then, Chris?
Well, we've done all right, to be honest. We've done all right with the numbers. A couple of thousand subscribers in the last month, I think, which is really good. So thanks, guys. Whatever you're doing, it seems to be doing the trick. So tonight, what we want to do is it's a topic that we often cover, but sometimes we don't go into great detail about it. And for any viewers out there, particularly Americans, because it seems that we do struggle to reach that audience, don't we? The international audience, and we're not necessarily sure why at this point.
No,
we've had a few Americans and Canadians watching the short documentary that we did, and had some really good feedback off them. So it's not that they don't like the content; it's just that we haven't quite got the reach yet. So we shall keep endeavouring to do that. But yeah, tonight we want to do some comparisons, because obviously and I know, and most of the people in the chat know that these are two of the most, Bempton, Skinwalker, probably Trays, Meadow, Hestallen. What's the forest? Paul,
Baku Forest.
Baku. There's a place in Romania. There's probably a dozen places, isn't there? At least the ones we know about.
Yeah, and you're right, Chris. Those are the names that spring to mind, aren't they? But I bet you all over. I mean, who'd have thought it? I mean, we know that this phenomena, these strange things, have been happening on East Yorkshire coast. Speeton, I'd have said, is more prominent than Bempton. It's only a mile away, but I say it every time, because of the lack of footfall and the amount of information that comes from Speeton. I think it's incredible. But I bet you there's little pockets all over the place that are just unknown. People just don't talk about them. I mean, there's definitely things. There's a certain area in one of them forests in North Yorkshire that Tony Dodd, he kind of highlighted it, and it's still happening. There's still things happening up in a certain field up there where things are being seen. And it's interesting because I did say to Steve Collin, who I spoke to on Sunday night's live stream for Truth Proof. I said I'll have a run up into North Yorkshire with you in next few days, or at least try get up this week. And I want to go to that place if possible. But yeah, it's amazing, these locations. I wonder if it's once it like a snowball. Once people sort of highlight something that's happened, the energy and the knowing helps bring it out or bring it to prominence. I don't know.
You wonder, don't you? Because if these other locations are very similar, Skinwalker and Bempton appear to be that when you bring new people on,
it's definitely new people, without a doubt.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's a test. Is this? Some people think it's the phenomena testing these people, or is it the energy that they're bringing? Or I know there's a number of theories. We don't necessarily know, do we? There's no real data being correlated on this stuff yet.
There isn't, no, but it's and everything. You say it, we all say it. Just when you think you can't get surprised, something else happens that kind of, you don't blow other stuff out of water, but you think, well, that's another direction. I mean, Chris Mack and Daz, the fisherman. I didn't know Darren before this incident, what happened, but the blue spike that came out of the ground, that's, if you were trying to make things up or think of something, what can I think of that's different? You wouldn't have thought of an 80-foot blue spike coming out of the ground, but that's what he claims that he saw. And once again, we jump to it. There's nothing to gain by sharing it. Nothing to gain by putting his hand up and his head above parapet and talking about it, has he? None of us have.
No, not absolutely not. And again, I think you said to me over the weekend, you've just got so many sightings that you haven't even covered yet. So many reports that you've not even touched on.
Look at this. I thought if we, and all these were little paper clips on, they're all ones that we've never talked about. And these are there's a pile more. And I've got people not falling out, but getting quite upset because they've sent me stuff, and rightly so, because I like to get onto it if I can. And you just can't keep up with it all. But I'm not moaning. It's brilliant. It's good. I mean, it's like today. Just a couple of hours. By the time you've gone out and come back, just to provide a couple of minutes to put something in perspective, and it just helps, doesn't it? And I know you've been busy all day. There's a lady sent us some footage, and I forwarded it to you, Chris. I don't know whether you got it. Did you?
Yeah.
And
it's always nice, isn't it, when we get sent footage and people want a second opinion. And it's nice that they send it to us or you or
us. Well, I'll put my hand up and say that I don't know. I think the lady's 100% genuine, but I don't know if it's a reflection of something inside her home. And I think you highlighted that before I even mentioned it, didn't you? And after you'd seen it, I saw it early doors and then forwarded it to you.
Yeah, I think, guys, take a look at this, and we'll put it up now, and you'll see what you guys make of it. That was my first impression of it, just because I've seen so many of these. It's just experience, I suppose. But let's have a look.
Is it going to play?
Here we go.
It's everything.
In fact, let's lay this out, Paul. Go on, can you lay it out to us?
She's filming a helicopter in the distance, as you guys can see, but keep your eyes on the lower right-hand corner above the chimney pots.
Okay.
So she claims she hadn't seen the object, and I'm like I said, that I didn't. Don't misinterpret that. I think this lady's on the level, but she just said she didn't see the object. That's what she was filming, and then obviously when she's looked at the footage, that shows up. And you made an interesting observation earlier, Chris, and to me, it kind of looks like it could be on the money. But she also sent us a picture of a window ledge because we asked. So
yeah, I think what I gleaned from this is that as she's zooming in and out, this thing appears and disappears. So if you go back to the front end and we watch it from the beginning, just above that chimney, you'll see there you go. And then as she goes in, obviously it fades away. And then the same happens when she comes back out. So I think that it's some reflection somewhere in the home.
Yeah.
You'll see it. There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, could be wrong. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of, well, I've leaned to the same, but I do think that it's a genuine person that sent the footage in. So we said we'd put it up and let you guys have a look. And that's exactly what we've done. You give us your views on that if you want. And politely, remember, because nobody's trying to pull wool over anybody's eyes here. This lady's just observed it, asked us what we think it is.
Yeah, absolutely not. It's just, and that's what you need to do, isn't it? With your own footage with evidence,
Absolutely,
you need to you always send me stuff. If you get something, you send it across, and a lot of people do that just because they just want a second opinion, third opinion. It's the right thing to do. So yeah, no malice in that. So shall we? Well, let's talk about first of all the similarities between the two places. So, perhaps a phenomenon, you can see Bempton, Skinwalker up there. So obviously, we all know, everybody in here will know that Bempton and Skinwalker are renowned for, I would say, probably top of the list is UFOs, UAPs, orbs, craft, and glowing objects in the sky. Can you tell us about the sort of history, Paul, and how long that's been going on? Because this isn't a new phenomenon, is it?
It's nothing new. I say it every time. I'm only walking in footsteps of other people, not necessarily people interested in UFOs. Though you can go back and speak to old retired fishermen and people who've lived in the area, and they've got some incredible stories to share. Not just of lights in the sky, proper structured craft. Do you know I think you met the former butcher from Flamborough, which we've talked about before, Dean, when a group of school children, on the strength of a flying saucer that had been seen by locals landing on the cliff tops, went to look at the landing traces of it in September 1970. And then the MOD, as we said a few weeks ago, wanted him to plough out the area of land so that there's no trace of it. Interesting for something that's got no sort of defense significance or interest to anybody in a military sort of circumstances. But the stories are there. 1963, the craters that appeared on the cliff tops at Flamborough. The Flamborough one was the first one to appear, and then there were a series of them all over the country, Dufton Fell and Lanarkshire, and nobody knew why. And the military arrived, bomb disposal teams, Geiger counters. Patrick Moore, the astronomer, he was brought in to dispel the myth of little green men, which is interesting in itself. So me being on those cliff tops for on and off between those cliff tops and the Wolds for at least the last 20 years. And I've only, I've not really been that vocal about it. 2006, I started putting footage out there. And that's when Whitley Strieber picked it up and were interested, because Whitley's, I don't know, he's been going years and years, hasn't he? But me going up onto them cliff tops is just highlighting something that's been there all along. The crater that we talked about, the Flamborough crater, I were later contacted by, and this is interesting, people, regarding the craters, because if you want to go online and type in craters, and I haven't got no paperwork in front of me, but I think it's 1963 and I think it's July, you'll find a wealth of information out there about these craters. But I was contacted by a man who used to work for a large haulage company in Bridlington. I'll not say it name, they're still going today. And I went to his home and he told me that he'd seen the newspaper article and me asking about information, and I touched on the craters that appeared, on especially the Hood crater, because it was Hood Farm in Flamborough that it appeared on, so that's where it became known as the Hood crater. Right. He said to me, it weren't the only crater to have appeared. And I wish we'd put photographs up for this, Chris, to be honest with you. It's easy to say it, but we've got the photographs. And he directed me to it, and it was back of RAF Bempton. There was another crater that appeared. It was 60 foot across. I went and measured it. I pinned it out, string lined it, took a surveyor's tape. Mary, my wife, came with me, measured it, And at the time, it were about 7 or 8 foot deep. I can't remember exact depth, and there were debris in it from 1960s. You know, it were even deeper. And he said that he spent a lot of time up there. His main job were reducing Beacon Hill, which were a tumuli, a huge burial earthwork, should we say. And he were taking sand and gravel from it to do building works and things. Which, can you imagine that today? With an excavator digging into these tumuli, it wouldn't be allowed. But in 28 years, he reduced it to a mound, from a hill to a mound. But that's not what we're on about. We're on about the craters. And whilst around the area, he realised that within a few days this had appeared. And he never said anything because he didn't want to be made fun of. He didn't, because there were a lot of talk of, there were UFOs seen, or spheres of light, orange lights in Danes Dyke around the same time that the craters appeared in 63. I hope I'm right with 63 people, so I don't want to send you on a wild goose chase, but there's only 2 years it can be. It was 63 or 67, but you will find them. Dufton Fell, Lanarkshire, other places around the world, around the United Kingdom. And the reason I say I hope I'm right is because one of the longest UFO sightings, I think, in the world, that's a big sort of boast or claim to make, in the world, was above Flamborough Lifeboat Station, Flamborough Coast Guard Station. And that was, I can't remember exact date. It were about a week after the craters appeared. That's and people will be listening to this and thinking, he's talking bull. How can he be saying that? Well, I did. If you look in the first book, it's all there. I went into the archives, got all the reports. It were there about 5.5 hours. And Coast Guard looked at it. Bridlington Free Press staff came with binoculars and they watched this object above the Coast Guard station that slowly moved towards Filey and then came back. And it started at about 5:30, 5:15 in the morning, and it was still there after dinner time in afternoon, after 12 o'clock. And at times it resembled a bullet. And at other times it resembled a triangle with a white line down the side. These are descriptions what are in the papers. So I wish I'd got this information with me. I ain't got book one here, so apologies. Why I've got 3 book 2s there, I don't know. I think it was July 63 or July 67. If anybody's got a truth proof, Andy, just have a look for us. I think it's in book 1. And does anyone else know? Let's say it were military, some unknown military tech, but it were classed as a UFO. Does anybody? And they called the military. Obviously, they're going to deny it, but they said they'd got nothing in the air at that time that was resembling this. Yet there was military aircraft below it, circling below this object. And but they knew nothing about the big object, whatever it was. It was later explained away as a meteorological balloon that would have expanded to an enormous size and exploded, and that's why it disappeared. That's where it was described. And this thing was enormous, so it looked like a balloon. It was a meteorological balloon, was the explanation. At various times over the 5-hour period resembled a bullet and a triangle. It's interesting, isn't it? And it changed colour, this balloon, and it looked like black with a white line down the side, and then just it morphed into different things, just like the strange shape that the ex-South African military guy saw over
Ian Norris.
Ian Norris. I could never remember his name. Sorry, Ian, if you watch this. But that was a great sighting, weren't it?
Yeah. It's just fascinating. I don't think I've ever heard about that one, Paul.
Yeah, well, it's a 5.5 hour UFO sighting, and don't take my word for it. That's all you can do, innit? Unless you're going to go into archive at Bridlington and look through these old microfilms, but it's there. And it's incredible, isn't it? I just find it amazing. I don't know anywhere in the world where we've had a 5.5 hour UFO sighting, unless it's in some secret paperwork within the Ministry of Defence.
And when was RAF Bempton put up? That's sick.
RAF Bempton,
they
came in, I think it was... good God, it was just after war. I can't remember exact date now, and I'm losing the plot, aren't I? But RAF Bempton came, I think, and I think when it came, it were RAF Flamborough at first, but they discovered that the altitude of say 150, 180 to 200 foot cliffs just weren't sufficient for what they wanted. And in the same year, they moved up to Bempton, and it became RAF Bempton. Then I wish I could remember the year. And it stayed. It said it stayed till 1968, but it were lightly manned till 1970. So during that period, these craters appeared, and this incredible UFO sighting, the 5.5 hour UFO sighting above the Coast Guard station. I mean, you can't get better than those trained observers, and that's a fascinating one, isn't it? You know, and as I say, the crater, the old farmer, when I interviewed him, I don't know, 10 years ago, he obviously is a young man then, 1963, and he'd gone to cut hay on his dad's land, and when he went to cut hay, it wasn't there, and when he came back, it was there. It just appeared. And obviously I don't know how the Ministry of Defence got involved, whether his dad reported it or what, I don't know. But it's interesting that they took it all so seriously with all the craters around the United Kingdom that the bomb disposal squad arrived, and Geiger counters, and in most of the cases, Patrick Moore. It's just, why would they bring Patrick Moore in to dispel the myth of little green men? In one of the cases at Dufton Fell in Lanarkshire, I think that was the one, on a bloke called Stephen Blanchard's farm, but I can't remember the first name. They found the side of the crater. They described it as finding a cow peeling in scales. Its skin was peeling in scales. That's what the words that they used. And in another one, Patrick Moore did an incredible write-up, and without realizing, I think, of what he discovered when he looked at some of the crops, because where these craters had appeared, some of them weren't perfectly circular, they were elliptical, but they'd crossed over fields. So one would be half would be in a barley field and half would be in a potato field. And it had took the earth. There was nothing there. It had just took out the earth, just like it did with the one at the side of RAF Bempton. But he talked about the stalks of the corn being laid over and twisted in an unusual manner. This is the guy that were put into, and he's done a brilliant report for crop circle enthusiasts without realizing it. And, you know, and he were perplexed at how it could have been done. Because I don't think Patrick Moore, and, you know, I don't think he were a great supporter of the alien hypothesis or the visitation from somewhere else. What he, you know, I don't know, but there you go.
It's interesting because you don't hear about that now. This crater type thing. Oh, the odd case you might hear about it, but like you said, that was a spell of craters. Did you say it went across the world as well? Because
no, I don't. It might have gone across the world, but I know it's spread all across the United Kingdom.
I'm sure I've heard some in America.
June and July. In fact, you have heard about them in America, and George Knapp contacted me because, and I can't remember what about the craters, because I'm told that the reason Bigelow first became interested in Skinwalker Ranch was because of the craters that were appearing on Skinwalker Ranch. And I don't think we're going to 1960s with that. So, you know, I haven't got a date for that, because as everybody knows, I live in my own little bubble. So I don't know. You'll know a lot more about Skinwalker Ranch than I do. But that's what George Knapp said. He first became interested because of the craters.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, what's the purpose there? I mean,
well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a large amount of Earth being taken, aren't there? You know, so God knows. I don't know.
But, very strange. Anyway, so next on the list, obviously, people just recently, you guys have had a lot of experience with the shadow figures, humanoids, and obviously Skinwalkers seen at Skinwalker Ranch. But the other ones, obviously, cryptids and apparitions.
Yeah. Well, you know, the shadow figures. And you know, if Linny was sat in here now, or Pete, or anybody that's been up there for any length of time, would tell you that we're looking to sky most of the time. We're looking for lights in the sky. We're looking for some kind of evidence of UAP stroke UFO. But that's what we were doing. But everywhere's of interest up there at the moment. And these shapes of people, it's really strange. I don't think they've been seen now for probably a month, 2 months maybe. But they're there. I know that when Wendy came up and her husband, they saw, Steve saw legs walking outside of him and shook him up because there was nobody there. And jumping to Skinwalker, I just said I don't know a lot about Skinwalker, and I don't. But a friend of mine who went to Skinwalker, whose bodyguard observed him walk into some toilets, told me face to face personally that he saw the shadow of a person walk into the toilets behind him, just the shadow, the dark shape. So there are similarities there, you know.
Yeah, well, the other thing up there is obviously cryptids is the thing. So would you say predominantly werewolf, dogman type, more than anything else?
I don't know. I don't know, because I sometimes think to myself, we're talking about this. You're talking about it now. I am. This is what on the short I put on for truth proof. Are we? I don't mean we're creating it, but are we helping? Just, I don't know, bring it into sort of existence. It's weird, because the military guys, February the 7th or 9th, why them 2 dates, but it was 7th or 9th, 2019. They go up there, bit of wild camping. They want to see the peregrine falcons, which there were 2 pair up there, and they saw what they can only describe as a werewolf.
Yeah.
And I need to stress here, because when you made it elusive, and that's when we first sort of started doing a little bit of work together, and you made that incredible film Elusive. You sat and spoke to me in Flixton Woods, and we did that interview. And the in word, or the name, is Dogman, the Dogman. And I don't think we're dealing with anything different than the werewolf. It's just, I think where it falls down, where the name werewolf falls down, is that people instantly think that you're trying to say that somebody's turning from man to beast, and that's not where I'm at. It's just a name for something that's travelled through folklore. It's there in the forests of North Yorkshire. It's there around tumuli. It's there around Indian burial grounds, if you want to call it the Skinwalker. It's there. This thing is present throughout man's documented history, and these things are present in these areas, not as living, breathing things, as they're real, but we've got to establish what real means, because these things aren't there all the time. We'll jump away from Bempton and go to Danes Dyke, which is only 3 miles away, and there's reports there. People have spoken to, not just friend of a friend, and the lady who was with her young son and her brother. So the lady's in her late 20s, early 30s. Her brother's a little bit older, and they're just walking through Danes Dyke to the entrance. They're walking opposite way. They're walking to the entrance where people would normally drive in. I got it wrong when she said we were on way out. I thought they were on back road. Not that matters to you guys. And they were in a caravan further up on holiday camp. So she's watching her brother and her son play, and on her shoulder, right on her edge of her ear, something growled. Literally growled right next to her and terrified her. She said, but her brother never heard it. And, they've contacted me to tell me that. So if this is what my point is, if this is what we're dealing with, if these things do become, as in they become visible at times, but at other times we've just got the sound. If this is what we're dealing with, then they're here, and they've been here probably thousands and thousands of years. And if you're in chat now and you're in just because you want to amuse yourself, you need to think to yourself, why are people reporting these things? What have people got to gain by reporting these things? Because it's certainly not fame and fortune, and there's no end of people coming forward saying that they're having these experiences. It's gathering pace. It's still the last of there's things of an unexplained nature, I think, to be, I wouldn't say accepted as normal, because nothing of the unexplained nature is accepted as normal. Otherwise, it wouldn't be unexplained, would it? But it's on the very fringes of people's understanding and getting their heads around. I know when I speak to people, Chris, and I don't know about you, they'll say, I can believe that there's UFOs and there's loads of people seeing them, and pilots say they've seen them, and police officers, but God, you only talk about werewolves and talk about things like that. I just don't believe that. I respect that. You've got to do, haven't you? It's such an hard one. But there you go.
It is, and I know, and we're trying to differentiate between the two, and they're both as wild as each other anyway. But you have had reports of what appears to be something changing from a man into a wolf.
Yeah.
And you've also, you've had a few cases like that.
There's an absolutely brilliant one, and I think this man will probably listen to this stream later tonight, Michael, and I'm looking forward to meeting up with him. I think he's coming up in a few weeks' time, and then he's coming up in October, because it was October that he saw it. And this is at Danes Dyke once again, and he's done the drawings. I mean, there we go, people. I've let you all down, because we could have had the drawings, because he sent me the drawings and would have allowed me to use them. And he's looking at a car. There's an elderly lady, I think, just pulled up near the kiosk at Danes Dyke to get a ticket for parking. And he sees a man. I think we've done this one a few weeks ago, so I apologise. He sees a man in a long, sort of waxed trench coat with a hat on, walking behind the car. And this man's job is working with motor vehicles. So, and it's a I think he said it were a Fiesta, so it's an old one, and it were in good condition, and that's what caught his attention, because he works with old cars like that. And it walks behind car, and he realizes how big this man is when he looks at the car in relation to the man. And then it starts to change, and he says he sees fur and a snout. It's just an incredible story. And you know, of course you can make it up. I could be making all stuff I've talked about in night, people, but I can assure you I'm not. And I don't think majority of these people who are reporting these things of an unexplained nature are out there. Whether you want to believe or whether you don't believe on, or you're just open-minded, but you'll not believe it till you see it. They're out there, and your disbelief isn't going to change the fact that people will continue to keep reporting them no matter what, because they're there.
Yeah, I think it's only limited perception, and that's been done purposely over centuries to everybody. That there's a knowledge out there that is secret, and I think from everything to physics to medicine to folklore, you name it, alchemy, it's legitimate. It's just hidden from your everyday person, and so to the point where you know we are able to access these things, and I think the main tool is here in the mind. You know, I think that if you want to connect with these things, and although you know, I'm not saying that's how to do it, but it might not always be favourable. It might not always be the results that you want. What we got here. Nickname. Do you have anything further on the car cam by the train crossing? Anyone else coming forward? Anything else from the footage? Thank you.
Well, yeah, myself and Linny went out this morning to just do a little bit of daylight footage for you guys to give you a kind of sense of, as with Ian walking under that railway crossing light, how big this thing is. And although the footage is admittedly very poor, let's not knock it, as it weren't designed for that. It was designed if you're up close to a car and somebody runs into, you run into the back of somebody, or somebody reverses into you, because if there's a camera at back as well, that's what it's designed for, not for looking at something projected into distance. So it's done well to get what it's got, and it can't be denied. Something over, I think at least 8 foot tall is going past, and it looks like it's on 2 legs. And then with a bit of further evaluation, moving up very slowly. It took 8 seconds, I think, didn't it, Chris, for myself and Lenny to get up there. If you look to the left-hand side, there's something in the field. Well, I've been there today. Granted, there's two openings in the hedgerow. They've both got nothing in them, though. And so if you're going to have to take my word for it that there's nothing in the other opening. But we'll do a proper number on it. We literally only went there this morning because we were waiting on a confirmation whether we were going to have a guest, so we could talk about this with you guys. And so myself and Ian just went this morning just to add a little bit more content to the questions, such as the question that's just been asked. Okay, so next thing on the list, Hold on, Chris. Did Patrick Moore actually investigate the craters, or just put his name to it? Patrick Moore were brought in, Bob. You'll have to. Patrick Moore were nothing. I did no investigation into what Patrick Moore did or didn't do. I was only interested in the Flamborough crater and the Bempton crater, and that's what I wrote about. But in the course of writing about them, I discovered that other UFO groups within the UK back in the 1960s had also done them, and I think, and so there's a lot of detailed reports out there. Like Flying Saucer Review did a number on the craters as well, and they talked about Patrick Moore being brought in. I don't know if it was Flying Saucer Review that talked about it, but UFO organizations of the day to dispel the myth of little green men. So what his role in that was, I don't know. Well, I do. Dispel the myth of little green men.
The next one is the word we shall not say, but it is the animal fatalities, as we like
the
to
animal
call it.
fatalities. Yeah, I mean, there's definite similarities to this area of Skinwalker, isn't there, and what were happening up there. And I don't know whether it's happened up around Bempton and Speeton over decades at different periods. Yeah. I only got to know 2017 that this particular farmer were losing livestock, and when I found out about it, incidentally, I found out about it off the guy who lived in Danes Dyke, Peter. And police had just been to visit him on New Year's Day, 2017. And we went to visit him to take him some food. And he told me we'd just missed the police. And he said some sheep had been killed in Bempton. So I just became a little bit interested. Later did a bit of homework, discovered the farm, the farmer, went and spoke to him. Nothing to do with unexplained phenomena. I said, but I'm interested. I want to try and help you find out who is killing your livestock. And I went up there at 4:30 in the morning, 3-4 times a week, and me and Mary's little dog at the time, and we never discovered who or what was killing. The police had been involved as well. They'd set people on occasion in the fields, but not while I were there. They'd been prior to me coming, hoping that they could catch people, but they never did. And from what I was told, one got done while they were there. It was the strangest thing, because you could go. It's a macabre thing to talk about, people, but you could go onto these fields, and I'd do like a grid pattern of the field, and then drop into a little bit of woodland. And when you could come back, it happened on one occasion. He told me that all the sheep have got a number on them, and I think it was number 35. And he told me that it had gone missing. It weren't a fully grown ewe. It were probably, I don't know, half-grown lamb. And he said it had gone missing, so could I look out for it? And he'd been missing a few days. And I went into the field this particular morning, did my little grid pattern, 2 big fields, big gate separating them and a fence. Did that, walked into the wood. There's nothing there. Grass weren't long. There's nothing there. On the way back, I'm walking back, come through the gate, shut the gate, look up the field, and it's there. It weren't there in the morning. So I went to the animal. His front leg were missing, left front leg were missing, and we're not going into too much detail, but it didn't have eyes. It had been missing a few days. No other natural predators to UK had tried to predate on it, such as badger or fox. Everything else was intact on this animal. And I rang him up and I said, what number? Well, that sheep. He said, what's that, number 35? I said, it's here. And he couldn't get his head around it. He said a fox had probably brought it back. I don't think they do that, do they? Yeah, it was as big as a Labrador. Seriously, it weren't a little lamb. So it was very strange. It were almost like something were playing games. But I think when I found out about it, there were 27 or 20 sheep, 27 or 28 sheep had lost their lives. And when we'd finished, there were 50. And that were early into 2019. And I went up there a few months ago and found 3, but not in the field. That field's no longer for grazing sheep. It's got a crop in it. And I found 3, but they were in Danes Dyke. But I think one of them were definitely the work of man. So, but these others, I'm not going to say that people were doing it, because when we were finding them, most of them had got the ears removed and facial stripping of skin and nothing else. So, and what's the point of that? And then you've got people suggesting, it's some kind of satanic cult. Have you tried to catch one of these animals? I mean, okay, I'm 62, so I'm not fastest thing on earth, am I? But they're not. You wouldn't be able to catch them. And it weren't just sheep; it were roe deer, fox, and badger that were being killed as well. So probably fastest animal in UK would be a roe deer, perhaps, or a hare, but it were roe deer, fox, and badger, and nothing to gain by doing that. And if I'm on them fields at 4:30 in the morning, sorry to labour on this, people, but over a period of nearly 2.5 years, and I never discovered it, and I went on with thermal cameras, and I were there. I didn't just scout outer edges of it. I did the full search of the fields when I were there. I never saw a soul. Nobody. I heard the voices. I never saw a soul.
Yeah, very, very unusual. And obviously the jury's out still, even all over the world, with exactly what the purpose of what it is they're doing. Or there, I say there. The argument can be had about who's doing it or what is doing it, but the purpose, that's another story.
It is. And if you remember, Chris, because you brought it up either yesterday or earlier today, there was a case at Skinwalker where they found 6 bulls in a steel container. I think they're called, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, Semental bulls or something like that. They were big prize bulls, and they were found in a steel container. And the farmer apparently, or the owner, had only looked at the bulls a short time before, yet they were contained within this container, and they haven't a clue how they could have got in there. And there was a similar thing. I mean, because you reminded me of it up there on those fields. The farmer had a sheep run, which he would put a liquid in the bottom in a tray about 5 foot long and about 4 or 5 inch deep of this liquid that would treat their feet for parasites and things. And he made a point of saying they hated it. Obviously, it must have stung their feet. And they funneled the sheep in, and then they had an open area at the back once they'd ran through it. Said it were a hell of a job. He'd got 2 sheepdog, and it were a hell of a job. There were 300 sheep on field at the time, getting them all in it. They just knew they could smell it. They just didn't want to go near it. And it came to the sheep. I didn't see this. He came to the sheep one morning, but I know it was 28th of June, and it was 28th of June 2017. I can tell you why in a moment. He came to the sheep early one morning and just couldn't believe his eyes, because this sheep run that's designed to hold 6 sheep, it's like corrugated sheets about 30 inch high. If you're in farming community, you'll know exactly what I mean, and they pin it in with these steel stakes. There's 30 sheep in it, upside down, on top of one another, crammed in, hanging over the sides. Can't believe what he's looking at. His dogs couldn't get them into it. If even they were hard work, they didn't want to go in, and this has happened overnight. So he unpegged it, got them all out. There were 2 dead, not dead through some kind of malicious act by whatever had done it, dead through heat and exhaustion. Yeah. But so there's a similarity. Now we're going to say something else, but it's left me head, hasn't it? What was that? What we're going to do? I can't remember, but not to worry.
I mean, there's a potential number of reasons for that, isn't there? But again,
something that terrified him.
Something that terrified him, and it's one of them things. It's a remote area like Skinwalker. There's just no one there to watch the phenomena doing what it's doing, and that's why it's doing it, and now it's getting away with it.
Well, compared to Skinwalker, we've probably got a lot more habitation, but you're right, it's remote. It's on a private road to get to the area, to the fields. You can access it from the cliff tops, although there's no point now because there's crops in field. But at 4:30, after midnight, we know, me, Pete, Linny, Bob Brown, we know that after 9 o'clock at night, there's only us up there. There's nobody. So, and if you're there till 11, 12 at night, you see next to nobody. So 2, 3 morning, the harsher months of the year, getting into winter and that, you're not going to have anybody knocking around in that area at all. You know, so in that respect, it is remote. Of the little wood that I used to drop into on a morning when I was doing the grid search, I went into it actually with Patrick Daniel, who's up here now, who's had an incredible experience up on the ridge of Danes Dyke, and that's why he's here. He's been here 2 weeks. Yesterday I spoke to him. He says, I've just been sat up there just trying to get my head around it. Messed his head up quite a bit when, you know, actually just couldn't understand what he'd seen. And met up with a guy called Gareth Hawkins, who I saw in chat earlier, former police officer who had an incredible experience up there as well. And we all dropped into that little wood last week, and literally walking through 4-foot bracken. There's nobody being in it. I got hay fever again. First time I'd had it in years, so I'm not going back in it either. Not anytime soon.
So Fortune's saying, why do you think the phenomena doesn't expose itself constantly? It could seemingly act with impunity. Why does it show restraint or caution? Is it just wary, or is there an environmental factor?
I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
All of the above, probably.
I don't think it's wary. I don't think it needs to be wary, Fortune. But all you're getting is my opinion. Because I don't know, but I don't think it needs to be wary. I think it enjoys the game. I think it loves keeping people on the toes and catching people off guard. I really do.
I think it depends what part of the phenomena we're talking about, because let's take ET abduction just as an example. Let's say some of this phenomena up at Bempton and Speeton and along the coast is the same culprits. I think there is an element of that. I think it's possibly an environmental one to do with that they cannot be in this environment, and they certainly don't want to be exposed in this environment because there's obviously a vulnerability there. That's the way I look at it. I mean,
yeah, you could be right.
I mean, they're not that vulnerable, clearly, but they must have some weakness and some vulnerability to. And you've said it before, you've experienced it. They come in the middle of the night. Why? Yes, you want to be secretive and you want to go under the radar, but is it something to do with UV light? Is that
in the night, aren't they? You know, they don't want to be seen, and you make a good point. And even I once said, well, I probably said it recently. What if they don't actually know? What if they just perceive what we're going to do? What if they don't actually understand us? Let's look at a horse, for example. And when it drops its ears back, you think to yourself, be careful, because it's not happy. And what if, but it's not talking to us. It's not saying, back off now, or else I'm going to boot you, or I'm going to bite you. But what if they're just perceiving us as an animal, as a species? We know that they're obviously ultra intelligent if they can appear at will or disappear at will and appear to outmaneuver our aircraft. But what if it's all about the thought process? What if their ability is that they can act on our emotions and our thought and our intent without really understanding us? Because I'm thinking, like, when we go to point a camera at these things, not necessarily me, other people, they disappear. There's an intent there. We're going to do something. Is it any different to pointing a gun at them or pointing a weapon at them from an aircraft? I wonder if they understand the difference. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just simplifying it and I haven't got a clue what I'm on about. But it just strikes me that it's our intent. The police officer on the cliff tops, when the red figure of 8 lit up at Speeton, and he were watching it, and then he just dropped his head because I think he said he was going to get his phone to take a picture. When he looked back, it had gone. So when he looked, then it replaced itself with the 3 white neon lights. He did it again and it disappeared. Well, the intent, you're going to do something, and these things just disappear. I wish I knew answers. I mean, if we knew answers, we wouldn't be sat here all scratching our heads, would we? But what do you guys in chat think?
I think you just scratched your head because you're looking at different. There's so many different variables. That's the problem here. Lisa saying, Chris, you're bang on the money. It is to do with light. I've been watching them for a year. Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of researchers have mentioned the UV light, and I think that translates across to these negative entities. We'll call them demons for want of a better word, but that is something that's been mentioned in regards to that. A lot of cave, research in cave. This could have been the stuff coming out of Jinn law and that kind of that kind of thing. Nigel Logan saying, "What do you think of the American whistleblower saying America made contact with ETs to 2026, 27? What do you think the contract was?" I made a contract. Sorry, Nigel.
Made a contract for those dates. Do you know, Nigel? I don't know. Chris might know more about this than me. I don't know.
Well, this is the date that's being thrown about now. I think a lot of it's coming off the back. I don't know whether you guys have seen it. The recent interview with News Nation, with Ross Coulthard interviewed Chris Bledsoe.
Right, okay.
That Chris Bledsoe case is it's turning a lot of people's heads a little bit, and it has over the last 15 years or so since he came out with his story. It's there's a religious element because he's a religious man, and he calls it UFO of God, and it cured his Crohn's disease, doesn't it?
Okay.
Well, basically, he was losing it. He had 4 kids. He was losing his business. He was really, really sick at the time as well, and he asked for help, and they turned up basically. Right. But it turns out that he'd had encounters as a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means, but it's causing havoc in the UFO research community because it's got that religious tie to it, and he's obviously a love and light guy, and why wouldn't he be? His experiences are all pretty much positive. There's some negative stuff to it because it's traumatic, but generally, it is a case that has upset a lot of ufologists.
Well, that's a shame, isn't it? Because it don't fit their narrative. I swear to you, if there was some kind of tangible proof that this phenomena, the UAP, stroke UFO, had a leaning to a religious connotations, a religious nature, I won't shy away from it. I don't mean I'm going to start praying to God and going to church every Sunday, but I wouldn't shy away from the truth if somebody can show me that truth. Just because we've got a certain belief and we're adhering to a certain, I don't know, this is my mind's made up, so I'm not changing it. That's what they are, and we've just shown you some proof that contradicts what you think. I don't care. My mind's made up. I'm not changing it now because I've invested too much time. Just change your mind. If somebody can show you the actual truth, change your mind. Don't be so stuck in your ways. And who's to say that? Is it Chris Bledsoe? Who's to say he's not right?
I mean, you look at his case, it's really interesting. And, let's be honest, he could only be dealing, and he says it himself, he might be dealing with a bunch of guys that have got only, positive things for mankind. That's what he says. He says that, and this is interesting, he said that when the war begins with Israel and Iran, which it has, between somewhere between 26 and 27, they are going to come from beneath the oceans, show themselves, and put a stop to it. That's what he says.
Won't that be good? Seriously.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, how do you argue with that? I mean, it's a tricky one.
Before we jump away from that question, because it was Nigel Logan's question, and Nigel's case is one that, I mean, you know about it. It's one that it blows you away. You've got a man there sat in chat, people, who's seen something that very few people, and I believe Nigel, 100%, and on heart, I believe Nigel, very few people will ever get to see in their life. And well, I'm not going into details of where it were, but this man were in East Yorkshire, on the edge of the North Sea, sat on a bench. As part of his job, he'd just been doing some work. If you want to say where it is, Nigel, you can, but I'm not doing, because you might not want to. And I know you've retired now. And he looks over the cliffs, and these cliffs aren't like Bempton and Flamborough. These are the ones that are eroding and falling into the North Sea. The clay that's just falling in every year. So we're looking at, I don't know, anything from 20 to 40 foot deep cliffs. And there's a stretch of sand between the cliffs and the sea. Let's say there's 50 foot. And Nigel would tell us better. And he's there with his workmate. And he looks over the cliffs, and there's a triangle between the cliff and the sea. Below the cliff, flying up. a Teflon-coloured, black, textured, should I say, black, slate grey triangle. And we used a caravan as the size. So I think they were looking at about 40 foot by 40 foot. and you know, because we're trying to estimate it. And Chris has filmed the guy with me probably 2 years ago now. It's going on for 2 years ago, Nigel, and it's incredible. But that's not where it ends. What I find fascinating is that when, I don't know, it were days after or days before he saw the triangle, we had one of the most massive power outages in the UK that just literally devastated a certain area in the UK. And it said it kicked off on the, what do they call this, Hornsey Wind Farm out there, and that it were in line with Hornsey Wind Farm. So he's seen this, and we've got this massive. Can we connect the two? We've no proof to connect them, but it's fascinating that he's seen this in the same, I would say, same time period as we've had this massive fault that occurred that created mega catastrophe as regards power outages. I can't even think where power outages were, because it were another part of the country, weren't it? And I'd got all that wrote down at one time, but I haven't looked into this probably for 2 years, Nigel. So we're going to have to.
I mean, we will be featuring that, won't we? It's in the next documentary. So
yeah, it's a brilliant.
So we're going to get into the facts surrounding all that. So it should be really interesting.
Yeah, and on the day that we interviewed Nigel, he were kind enough to bring his work colleague with him as well, weren't he? Which we didn't expect.
Yeah, and he backed it up. Yeah,
he backed it up. Yeah. So thank you for that, Nigel.
Yep. Should we jump to the next point, which is now this is interesting, Paul. You know, it's sort of like poltergeist activity, home disturbances, knocks, physical attacks. Now all that sort of stuff. You guys have been up to the cliffs, and a lot of people that's been up there with you have had that hitchhike. They call it the hitchhiker effect.
Yeah, we've had it here. You know, probably 12 months since we were getting the little stones that you could hear them cracking on laminate. And at first we didn't know what they were, to be honest with you. It were only, I became aware of them after I'd just gone to bed. And, you know, I can see all light. There's a dull light because I've turned these into flats. You have emergency lights in the hallways, which just give off a dull glow. Because you see that under the door, and I'm just looking at that, and I heard a crack. And we'd only just gone into bed, and I know there were nothing on laminate. There were nothing, so I went outside and picked one up. And before it sounded like they sounded like a kettle switching off. Do you know the sound when it flips up,
like a switch?
And we weren't looking for them. But then over the period of time, we started looking for them. These little stones were appearing, and there's all sorts of strange things happened. I know that in Ian's home, I mean, we've been on phone talking, and their television's just turned on in other room, and other people have had strange things. There's Richard, whose work is scientific based, and he went to I think he went to Reeton on holiday. I'm not going to pretend I can remember dates, with his family, and he walked up the beach towards Speeton, and he observed a light, a red light, seemingly came out from the cliff. He didn't see it emerge from the cliff, but that's what he perceives. It were again the cliff when he saw it, and it came out at 45 degrees, stayed over the sea, split into two, and then he observed it. Just under an hour's sighting. But when he got home, strange things started to happen. And this guy don't believe in much. He's proper. He's got to dissect everything, and laid in the bath and said that the towels, he says it were like on a puppet string. The towel were moving up and down on the radiator.
Weird.
Weird things. And there's lots of examples of it. Incidentally, I think we said February the 7th or 9th, 2019, the military guys had their sighting. I went up there in 2020, February the 7th, with one of my daughters, Gemma, and Bob Brown. So is this an example of the hitchhiker effect? So I'm setting a camera up, looking over sea. People will have heard me talk about this. Gemma's got a big torch, just looking at that hill. Says to Bob Brown, "What's that white thing on side of hill there, Bob?" He goes, "Oh, it's a board on a fence post." There isn't one. And he realised that straight away, and they both sort of looked at it, and it just dropped at ground and disappeared. But it became more interesting that night because, and I say this, I'm trying to back up what I'm on about. It don't give us proof, but 4 girls, they're all in the truth proof books except Gemma. Didn't have experiences about unexplained. She were too busy partying and doing what she wanted to do when Gemma just not, she weren't interested. But she came home that night, sat in little TV room. Me and Mary had gone to bed. Next morning, we get up. She says, "I nearly come and woke you up." I said, "Why?" "Oh, you've done it again on me. Thank you." Say that every time. Says, "Why?" And says, "I thought I'd heard thunder behind me, and there's only a brick wall at the back of her head, and there's nobody in flat above because Wendy had left." She said, and I sort of listened. She says, and then it became a growl right at the back of my head. She said, absolutely terrified me, but it was a growling. Is it any different to what the lady heard in Danes Dyke? And why would she hear a growling? You know, and you know, she did a bit of moderating for us in Truth Proof on Sunday night. So ask her, you know, she has, and she might tell you. But yeah, interesting. So this what they call the hitchhiker effect, I think. Probably it might affect a lot more people than they realize, because it's only since it's been highlighted, should we say, by calling it giving it a name, as sort of giving it birth. Because I bet these things have been happening in people's homes and in close proximity ever since the phenomena has been interacting with people. But now we're highlighting it and looking for it. We're finding more of it. There's more of it. Yeah, maybe there's not more. We're just noticing it because people are bringing it to our attention.
Yeah. Well, you probably go
on, you don't have to agree.
Sorry. No, I'm going to jump. No, I'll drag it out. I'm just going to jump onto the next part because we've got quite a few questions as well. Portals. So obviously, you mentioned earlier that
plenty of potholes in Brid.
Well, there's potholes, loads. Yeah. You want to come to Bolton. So there's portals, dimensional phenomena, possible dimensional slips, and portal events. That's obviously something. These are things that happen up at Skinwalker. Anything like that at Bempton?
Well, if you think about it, Chris, let's go a mile and a half up coast, and you know the case. We've already spoken to the lady, Lisa. What did she see with her husband at Speeton?
Yeah,
a mile and a half away, and you know. It's horrible using words like portals and I don't know, opening doorways, and because they're just words for same thing. Werewolf, dogman. I think we're dealing with same thing. There'll be people tell us that we're not, because there's 25 different categories and species of them, but we don't know that, do we? But let's call them portals for easiness. And Lisa went to Speeton with her husband or a partner, and they're walking up the beach. Sunny day. We're not looking at night time. There's a family on the beach, and there's a young boy playing football, and close to where he's playing football. What did she describe it as, Chris?
Like a mirror, like a glistening
mirror, like a rippling mirror, about 30-inch deep, 15 or 16-inch wide, lozenge shaped, or oval, should we say? And it's just there, suspended off the ground, 3 foot off ground, 4 foot off ground. And just there. She's looking up cliffs, thinking, is somebody reflecting something, knowing that you need something to reflect it off.
Yeah.
They walk round it, and I don't mean they do a full circle, but they walk round it. It's there, it's got form, it's got shape. Little boy nearly ran into it. I'm not joking. I don't know, maybe this is stupidity, but I'd have wanted to try and touch it. I know I would.
Well, it begs the question, what happens if you do that? And that's that sort of thing, you know. I mean, you get the people that talk about, is this a missing 411 phenomena type thing? Is this what it is? Again, just a bunch of unknowns, I suppose.
Not jumping from it because it makes sense. This for Truth Proof, I interviewed a guy who saw a Bigfoot when he was 7 years old, only a few weeks ago. Most incredible, touching interview that I've ever done with anybody. And he's an American, and it picked him up. He said, and when it picked him up, he left his body. He said, I felt at peace, and I left my body, and I was looking down at myself, at the little boy and the Bigfoot. He said, and I suggested to him, he said, and he'd not thought of it. I said, what if, you know, we're talking about the ability of these cryptids, that we do it every time. You've got a tree that wide, and you've got this thing that's 4 foot wide, and it walks past the tree and don't come out other side. I said, what if temporarily you were in that place where that thing goes when it picked you up? That's where you were. I don't know. And he said, I'd never thought of that. And, it's an incredible interview, to be honest with you. I don't mean my part of it, this guy's part. And, but I thought to myself, where do they go? What, we know we're talking about portals, but where do these creatures go? I'm not in no doubt that they exist. They're here. They're in one shape or another. And that's why I said we've got to define what the real is, because we think of something as real, as in we can tap it, we can clap our hands, I can see you, people can see me, but there's another reality, and these that surround us all the time. That reality where this thing can growl in your ear, that reality where these objects, these spheres of light can just appear from nowhere, just from out of the ether. And I can't. The guy who took the photograph, the photographer, teacher's photography, when he were doing the what sustained release photographs, what they call them, Chris, time release photographs. And
long exposures.
Long exposure, 29 seconds, 30-second photograph. Said these things didn't fly from anywhere. They just appeared. He says, and the photograph tells you that, because there's no trail, there's nothing. So, and he's got some kind of proof for us there, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? It's but I know Brian Lancaster, that's what they call the guy. I really thanked him for sending me that photograph. But we're all over the place. The guy, or I am, the guy who got picked up as a 7-year-old is looking down at himself. He's terrified. He says, I've no frame of reference. I'm 7 years old. He said he were missing for a while. It was a school trip. He were missing for a while. When the teacher found him, he says, I came to under the teacher's arm. He says he was carrying me under his arm. He says, because I'd lost control of all my body motions, should we say. So I think we know what I'm talking about. He says, and he didn't want to carry me. He says, and I came to under his arm. He says, and nobody believed my story. And he's in his 50s now. Brilliant story. But anyway, go on, Chris. Yeah.
Well, like I say, it's just if he's looking down at his body, it does that indicate a shift in frequency and resonance? It's much like these beings can't be in our 3D reality because it's a different frequency, isn't it? It's
like you said, they don't want to be here for long,
isn't it?
Yeah,
yeah. So Andy is asking, being entirely speculative, if the Fae are corporeal beings and possibly transient, they would need to eat. What if the sheep and other animal kills were the result of nocturnal hunts? Well, they didn't eat them, though. That's the thing, isn't it?
What it was, Andy, Chris is right. Chris knows what it were, and they removed ears, eyes, stripped facial skin, and they just didn't seem like, I couldn't find any blood. It was just macabre. It was weird. That's what. Sorry about that, Andy. Just jumping from your question. 28th of did I say 28th of June or July? July, when he found the sheep in the sheep pen, and I said there was something else that happened. I didn't know anything about that till he told me, and I went and sat in his farmhouse and he'd made a diary of what he'd got. And I got my book out, and not this book, and I got a diary out, and I says, wait there. I says, because otherwise you're going to think that I've just written this in. Same date, Cliff Lane, deer found with 3-inch hole, clean hole through its side, just in its side. And that were on Cliff Lane, same date. And I'm not joking. You could near enough see the fields where it were happening, be a few miles away, but from where this deer were found. Is there a connection? We can't prove it, can we? But is it too much of a coincidence? I think it is.
Rod with a thumbnail is saying, I bet the reports we get are just a fraction of what is really witnessed. Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah. There's a guy rang me tonight, and Malcolm, who's really, I've asked him if he'll come on because he's got some really interesting knowledge about ley lines and crop circles. And this guy, I don't think, has ever done a podcast in his life, and he's probably got more knowledge regarding crop circles and ley lines than probably any of the people who've written books on it. It's just amazing what this guy knows. And he wanted me to give him some coordinates from Google Earth of where the crop circles were found in Bempton, because he's contacting Ross Coulthard, because apparently he's got some interest in it, what's happening in UK. So that's what I did with Malcolm today. So we might find Malcolm on the podcast.
Cool.
Not that it means a great deal, but there you go.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jojo. We really appreciate that your support. It's much appreciated as ever. Declan Walsh, is it worth bringing a UV light up there with you to test out the theory that the phenomena will respond in some way?
I think everything's worth a go, Declan. Yeah. You know, we know that these things are being seen in thermal, and you know, obviously before we got decent thermal cameras, we weren't aware that these things were around us. But we've filmed them now. We know they're there. You know, so anything. I mean, audio equipment, anything that we can use. But you think to yourself, I've just said maybe it's not intelligent, maybe you don't understand, but then I'm contradicting myself, because you think you get this equipment and it's already one step ahead of you, and it's taking evasive action not to be caught. You know, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, Lisa's saying, what happened to them cows that were moved in the Alan Godfrey case? I can't remember the Alan Godfrey case.
I can't fill you in on that one, Lisa. And this will be Todmorden, though, I should imagine. Is that
Yeah, I mean, I know the cow. I just don't remember the cow bit. Nickname. On the back of my last, are there not some CCTV on these crossings? I wonder.
Yeah, there is.
There is, yeah. I noticed that today when you sent me the video.
We were looking at them today, and I said that to Ian, and as he said to me, he says, I don't think railway police are going to give that up anyway, are they? But you're spot on. Anybody who wants to pursue it, feel free.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
You know, I don't own these things. You know, it's all I know is what we picked up on that camera. And once again, we can talk about this area and the cliff tops, but we've got an area just out of the village where clearly things have happened. You saw earlier in the year, I think on Truth Proof and on Last Transmission, we played the red light that I saw flash up as I'm driving home, and Lynn is following me with his dash cam on. He didn't see it. It's there on dash cam. It's not as strong as the one that he saw later in the year when he's flashing me and telling me to stop. And there's a monstrous orange explosion. I think you saw that one, Chris, didn't you?
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah. I mean, there's 4 events, Paul. It's not. This is not a coincidence.
And then we've got the one, and you can clearly hear Ian and Elaine, his wife, say, "Did you see that just go over the road?" And I've looked at the footage and re-looked at it, and I can't see anything because, as we've said before, this dash cam is designed to record an impact, a car close up, or I don't know, some accident, not something quite a distance away. So we haven't got that one, but we've definitely got the other one, this thing at the crossing. Regardless of how weak the footage is, it can't be denied that something over I think at least 8 foot tall is passing that crossing there.
And it just goes to show that you're being observed, clearly. You're being observed.
Hey, Mary.
And that's been happening for a while. But I mean, at first, I thought you guys were being observed by, we'll say, military or a faction just observing what you're up to and, you know, what you're documenting. Because, you know, as far as they're concerned, you're up there documenting things.
Yeah.
Could be useful. But now I think you're being observed by the phenomenon as well as.
Well, yeah, well, what it is as well, it's like I said earlier, it's a trickster almost. And you'd be reluctant to call it a coward because, you know, you don't know what you're dealing with. But when it's doing something, it's doing it from behind. People are getting poked in back. People are getting pushed from behind. Everything's from behind. It's not facing you. It's always in your peripheral. And, you know, when Philip Kinsella were up and my eldest daughter, Sarah, they both going, "Oh, my God, did you see that?" And it just flashed in front of them. And they're both adamant they saw it. They both erupted, just like when Gareth Hawkins came up last week and Ian. And there's over the sea, not on the horizon. Oh, we're looking down onto these cliffs, 280 foot, 300 foot, looking out to sea. And it's not far out to sea. And they see a camera flash go off. We know it weren't a camera, but I've got to give you, if I say a camera flash, you get an idea of what we're talking about, but not in the sky, on the sea. So as somebody in chat's going to go, "Oh, yeah, probably a boat down there." There's no boats. It weren't dark. You know, last night, first time in all the time we've been up there, a kayaker passed us. About 9:30 at night. You know, and clearly to see, you could see him on thermal and you could see him with naked eye. You know, but that were a kayaker. I'd never seen one before. And he was tucked in under cliffs as he's going along. He's not far out to sea. But I don't know. It's fascinating. What we're going to do with this footage? Are we going to play it, or are we going to carry on doing this?
It's up to you. We can put it up if you want. And
I don't mind. You know, what do you guys in chat want? You're not going to see anything you didn't see last week. All you're going to see is myself and Ian just put it into a bit of perspective, just to give you daylight shot. Because all I did was go and take a photograph of Ian stood again with his hand up. You know, again the light. But today we did a bit of footage just walking about. So, but I don't mind. Whatever direction you want to go. It was just that it came up then, didn't it? Somebody mentioned it.
Yep.
Can you see it? Oh, see that.
Play it. Okay, let's play it then. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can find it.
This crossing now, and just imagine a few months ago something over 8 foot tall, or at least 8 foot tall, passing this crossing just under lights. And I think Ian's a good gauge to work that out from it being 6'2". I know we've stressed that a few times, but it's the only thing we can do. And quite a bit of traffic at the moment, but as you can see, there's literally nowhere for whatever it was to run. And it weren't behind the crossing, it weren't down here, it ran in front. So as you can see, looking at Ian with his camera on the monopod there, where do you think the actual height of this thing was then, Ian?
Well, we've looked back at the footage many times, it comes underneath here.
Yeah,
you can see it on this reflective bar.
You can see that, but I actually think it's higher than that. But
potentially because it's the black part, in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, here, if we go to here,
you've got 8 foot.
Yeah,
8 foot at centre of that bottom light.
Yeah.
So we've got to ask ourselves. I mean, the only thing it could have been was a horse, and we know it weren't a horse. There's no way for it to run.
But even if it was an horse, it'd have been massive. I mean,
absolutely.
That's 7'1" to the bottom of there.
7'1"
to the bottom of that.
You know, so
but it sort of goes blanks that out there, doesn't it? In here. And then there, but.
And I'll just go down here. So we're at the other side of the edge now, guys. I'm in the wrong opening, but there's nothing there. Because and the same, whatever it was, I believe, appeared in this hedgerow here. I believe it was stood here. As we passed, I believe it was stood here. You guys decide. I think it deserves a lot more attention than what we're giving it today, but it's interesting nonetheless. And Ian's walking down here now, but if I get down here and just imagine Ian's car passing, and there's something caught in edge, and you get a sense of how big it is when you look at Ian stood there, and he's obviously on a raised bank, probably about 2 foot up there, so that'd take him to 8 foot, and that might give you a perspective of why this thing does look so big in that hedgerow. And there's nothing, there's no buildings, there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's bloody weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So have we got the other one to play, Chris? Or
yeah.
If you haven't got it lined up, it don't matter. But I just thought it would help you guys by showing you that. At least you get an idea of the area. There's nothing at the back of it.
Okay, now so it's just gone across there.
I missed it.
What was that?
I missed it, mate. And I've no camera.
So, can you guys see that there? On the left there.
On the left, it's difficult, isn't it?
It's sort of like at, I don't know, 9 o'clock, I suppose, about a quarter of the way in.
9 o'clock.
There, you get a better view of it there now on the left-hand side.
I have dash cam.
It's absolutely.
You've just gone out of shot now. So there it is.
I have dash
So
cam.
Paul and Lenny are stood in
stuff.
just what you've watched then in the next one, which is.
It was quite big.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do you think it was?
Here.
It was very dark and it didn't look like a fox.
Yeah. Right. So, but very similar opening. There's nothing there. So what it is.
And that's no camera.
We've not got the slowed down footage that I sent you last week, have we?
I could probably view it if you want me to. I could probably view it in.
If you can't, it doesn't matter. We just get on with some questions, and like I said in that short film, it deserves a lot more attention, and we'll do a proper number on it. And Chris said the other week we're limited what we can actually show you guys because of the quality of the footage.
Yeah, I mean you are somewhat limited, but you kind of
it's there. You can see you can see what there. Yeah.
So you can see it there on the left-hand side.
See, we were just looking forward. We'd just seen that whatever it was run past. And is it possible to show people? Or that screen's only small, so we're probably not going to be able to do it. What actually moved past the crossing sign?
We can try and zoom in a little bit and go back. I don't know whether you'll see it. There it is. So
it's like when you know.
I don't want to zoom in too far because then it just sort of disappears. But if you look around that, well, people by now know the crossing. So if you can just about see it run in front of it there. Forward, back, forward. There it is, runs in front. And the only reason it is just beyond the light and obviously the quality of the camera. That's the only reason you can't see it.
Do you know something, Chris? We've been, apart from this night, whoever's not driving, we've been putting a psionics on and holding it and just and filming because of those flashes of light. That's better. You can see it there.
You just see it it sort of runs there. It is. I mean, it's stood there. You can see it. It's right there now.
Yeah,
right in front of it. You can see there's clearly something there. And in a matter of 2 frames, it just gone. It sort of ducks down, and I don't know, weird.
It's never going to be proof of cryptid visitation, people, is it? Let's face it. But you can't deny there's not something there, and well spotted, Ian. Because I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. I mean. What that is, though. And I mean, I know what it looks like, but
yeah. I mean, just zoom in on that just before we close it down, Chris, please. Do you see it?
Yep, there it is. Hang on. So you sort of see it there. I think there's a little red flash there, but I actually think that's noise. That's just RGB noise. That. But yeah.
And what we'd done, we'd focused on the crossing all the way up because of what Ian had seen. And when I got it home and shoved it into that DaVinci Resolve, I thought, let's just look. I'll just look in the side, see if there's anything there. I couldn't believe it when I saw that.
It is odd. Very odd.
And he were going slow there. I'm glad I didn't have my window down. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Very strange.
We might revisit that because we will do a lot. Dean Coolin, good to see you, Dean.
Dean.
Pike, yeah. Let's have a look. Dragonborn. We've done Steve Collin nickname. Your sister's birthday as well, Dean. Happy birthday. Tell her happy birthday. And yeah, all good. Oh, Dog Tannian.
Dog Tannian's back, is he? Has he brought any of the other musketeers with him?
Maybe. And I'll just say, just one more thing, if I can just get it in. If you want to buy a copy of the Wolflands DVD, it's on Amazon Prime or direct through the truthproof.uk website. Same with the books, truthproof.uk. And if you're buying them overseas, use the eBay link that's on truthproof.uk and we'll get them sent out. And thank you very much for that. And moving on.
So, moving on. The next thing on the comparison is, obviously the light orbs. So there's no shortage of that stuff going on in a number of places, including Estel, Bempton, Skinwalker.
Do you know
the Mimin lights are the same, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got the Brown Mountain lights in America. But the orbs are a common theme throughout every part of the unexplained, aren't they? They're the thread that links it all. You get these people claim to see orbs when there's cryptid sort of sightings, orbs, spirit sightings. Orbs around people's homes, UFO type orbs seen on fields and in the sky. It's a link. It's a thread that runs through it all. Yeah, and
is it plasma, Paul? This is the popular thing now at the moment. It's obviously being recognised by mainstream science now as intelligent plasma. Is that what it's been all along?
I don't know. I hope they realise that I had my name, didn't I, in 2002, intelligent light forms, because I thought it was just intelligent light.
To the trademark, so you could have been a billionaire by now.
Oh Christ, that's never going to happen. Do you know something though? It throws a different light on it when you consider the John who I spoke to a few weeks ago, who viewed the orbs through high-powered binoculars and could see the pyramids inside.
Oh yeah.
And you think to yourself, is there anything inside these lights? It just makes you think, doesn't it?
Well, then you get some researchers that talk about the Merkaba, and that's in more esoteric, I suppose, but still related to ETs. These advanced beings that travel with light.
With light.
Yeah. And just click of a finger. Which you would. And again, it's just different. Again, I think what it is, I watched something today briefly about, I can't remember what it was now, something to do with work, but just talking about the multiverse and multiple realities, and the fact that if that's legitimate, which do you think it is, then all this is just, nothing's off the table. And I think that's kind of the direction we're all going in now at the moment, I think. And just by the way, just go to back something Daryl said about the Chris, before I forget, about the Chris Bledsoe case. He's talking about some murder or something. I don't know much. I don't know anything about that case, but the Chris Bledsoe case, it doesn't align with my research. I know it doesn't align with yours either.
No.
This love and light business, from all the MyLab stuff and the reptilian stuff and the jinn stuff, I don't have any positive stuff to say.
No,
I'm afraid.
Well, I don't. But I won't knock them for having that.
No,
that's their experience, not. And you won't either. I realise that. But all I'll say to those people is, don't put people down and try and say that these darker things aren't happening just because you've had a wonderful experience, because I can assure you that they are. And let's just, before we jump to hotels, any strange happenings at Runswick Bay, up here on Hald's cottage balcony overlooks the. Do you know, Leachy? I think I would be looking, mate, because if you're overlooking the sea, there'll be things happening up there. It'd be a good friend of mine, Andy Barmby, that we'd need to ask about that, because he goes up and down the coast, the northeast coast, east and north Yorkshire coast, and he was telling me Sailor's Grave. They were fishing up near there, a place called Sailor's Grave, and a guy had been fishing. I think we did it in one at Shorts for last transmission. A guy had been fishing up there all night. There's nobody down there. It's a rough, difficult path to get down on the night. These places aren't habited by it. There's no houses or anything. And when he left, he looked back and there's a woman waving to him. So I know that doesn't tie in with what you've just asked, Leachy, but I think these things are happening up and down coast. Saw some huge footprints that I was told about. Mick Sigson told us about, that somebody doing a walk and parked in a camper van, got up in very early hours, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and decided with his partner to go for a walk, and they found huge barefoot footprints on the cliff tops in the soft earth. Not interested in outlight. They just told Mick about it and did some drawings of it. Didn't even do pictures of it. There's give me a drawing. I've got it somewhere. It's only a drawing, but I'd have wanted, if I'd have known, I'd have drove up and got some casts. Anyway, let's have a look. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, cheers, Lee. Really appreciate that, mate, as ever. Rod. Paul, have you ever tried communicating with the ILF using light itself, if you could gather such light?
No, I haven't. But you know, when everybody claimed that the SpaceX flew over a few months ago, and they said, you know, the news outlets said that it was visible for a few minutes. Well, we filmed it for 12 minutes, and there's something strange about that, because we've got amazing footage of it. If you look at the intro on Truth Proof intro, there's a little bit of it there. That's what I filmed, and there's balls of light within it as it's moving. There's balls that are moving in it. SpaceX, maybe that's what it were. But I tried communicating. Oh, well, that taken with that light that I showed that we saw, I did shine a torch to it. I said to lads, I'm going to put a torch on it, see what happens. It was SpaceX probably, but I don't know whether I thought I was going to get beamed up. But I put a torch on it anyway, but not usually, no. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, I just haven't done.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I can...
Are you looking for the SpaceX stuff?
Yeah, there you
go. There it is. But we've got... That's filmed by us, but we've got better footage than that of it. Can you see the light moving inside the one in front? That's me shining a torch on it. But when you actually study this over 12 minutes, there's 3 lights flying inside it. You see the lights around, but I'm talking about inside it. You can see the ones on the outside.
Okay. Want to know why this isn't SpaceX? Yeah, it's a great piece of footage, that, isn't it?
It really is. You know, and and to think that I didn't hear it anywhere on news that this wasn't visible. This was visible for more than a few minutes. We got 12 minutes of this, and we would have had, look, you see 2 lights in it now. We would have had even more. We walked up the cliff tops, and it weren't until I think I were in front, and when I put my bag down and turned round, I said to the lads, "What's that?" So it was there. It must have took us 5 minutes to get from main path.
Yeah, fascinating. I mean, everything, when you think about it, everything connected with SpaceX is mysterious. Everything Musk does deliberately is mysterious. It does not, releases very little statements about this sort of thing. Even that car. I mean, anyone that believes he actually put a car up there and that car's still up there now. I mean,
no, I know notes about that.
You don't remember the car?
No.
When he launched that car, Tesla, into space. Not remember it and showed it. I don't think there's I don't know whether was a sort of Stig or something. Was a spaceman sat in the car? Like a suit and this car, this footage of this car.
No, you must be asking people in chat because I didn't know that. No, nothing.
Because one of his famous statements, he said, it's got to be real because it looks so fake. Something like that, paraphrasing. That's what he said. Well, my job before I got into this, I was a compositor. That's what I did. I composited images to make them look real. And that is, first, as soon as I saw it, I just thought, that's garbage. That is not real.
Right.
Now, then all fanboys are in the chat. Well, you've never been to space. How do you know? That's like, well, all right, okay, forget it. You can't argue with those guys. So.
You've got the knowledge because, as you've just said, part of your job was creating things like that.
Yeah, he just, like I say, he's Musk, isn't he? He's a character. That's what he's there to do. He's to cause friction.
Okay.
Right. Next one.
Night Talk. Big love to the show, everyone who helps with it. Big shout out. Thank you, Night Talk.
Thank you. Yeah, cheers. Where's the next one? Oh, yeah. Richie Evans. Question for you all. I thought Skinwalker or Skinwalkers was only native Indians in America thing, not in the UK. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we're. Do you want to explain that, Paul?
Well, I don't know if there's out to explain, Richie, because I don't know if you're American, and I'm not meaning to cause offence. But you don't.
Floridian, I think.
Oh, okay. What I'm saying is, obviously, the terminology skinwalker, obviously, has come from the Americans, but you're not unique. You don't own the entity that these things are, because they're being seen all over the world, and the location that we're looking into, the proof is there. The documented evidence is there that people are seeing things that look and act very similar to what has been described and is explained. Absolutely amazing things that are coming out of America. So I think it's just a play on words. I mean, there's a lot of people wanting to call not the skinwalkers, but the dogman, the werewolf, the dogman. We're dealing with the same thing, I believe. Don't mean I'm right, but I think we're dealing with the same thing. So Native American Indians, skinwalkers, yeah. I don't think you'll ever hear me calling them skinwalkers, what we're seeing here.
No, I think when we use that terminology, it's generally, well, I don't know where it came from, but I think was it one of the books, Paul, or someone on one of the shows, was it Coast to Coast, that called Bempton the UK's?
Yeah, it'd be Coast to Coast.
They called it the UK Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker. We didn't name it that. You know, I've not jumped on that. It was Coast to Coast or someone like that. Anyway, I think it was that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Skinwalker. I'm aware of the actual lore and what you have to do to become a Skinwalker or attain those abilities. I know the rough sort of story. Yeah, that's probably quite unique too.
Well, do you know? I'm not going to go into detail, but seriously, because it's quite gruesome. But in Sierra Leone, many years ago, they had the leopard men of Sierra Leone. The leopard men of Sierra Leone, and they had to do something truly terrible, and they believed that by doing ritualistic things and dark magic and using certain things from the terrible deeds that they'd done, they could transform into the leopard. You know, and we'd probably get channel shut down if I went into it, but that's nothing to do with America, nothing to do with the UK, but practices and things like that, such as wearing the wolf girdle was said to aid someone into trance. I think they call it hamir in Norse, ancient Norse. I might have got that wrong, I'm not sure. And they'd wear the wolf girdle, and they would think that the skin of the wolf, and think that they could transform into the wolf. I think we've just got different variants because of the way people act in different countries, different cultures of the same thing. I think ultimately we're all probably praying to the same God and looking into the same phenomena, just looking at it through different eyes due to the way that we've been shaped in the place that we live.
And maybe even manifesting our own versions of this thing, because that seems to me, I know I say this every week now, but we are creating this stuff. We definitely are. We seem to be, well, that's what we are. That's our prime function. We're creators. That's what it seems to me. Much more powerful, I think, than we are at the minute. But we're kind of being held back, which is going back briefly to the Bledsoe thing. It's not that I agree with what he's saying. It's that in some respects, he's a bit like Greer. Elements of his argument, a bit like Paul mentioned it earlier about you can't look at the world now and not notice that we're in trouble. And I think that the narrative and the perspective of the public is being so controlled now, is that I don't know whether enough people can wake up to change the consciousness of everything, or whether he's saying these entities, or whoever they are, it might even be us from the future, who knows, that they have had enough of whatever force is behind this control, and that they are seeing, and that it's beyond us, this. So something has to be done about it, because it's not something. I know often we say this, Paul, sometimes, don't we, that humans are not very, very nice, but I think it's just a select bunch of humans that are not very nice, being pushed into, if you join the military, I'm pretty sure that you don't really want to go around shooting folk.
No.
You're just trying to do what you think's right. But yeah, anyway, get off the box. I always get on the box every once
okay. I see OGG UKGB. Thanks for the donation. Really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, mate. Really, really good of you.
And
is that Lee Roscoe?
Copying it for next week's show, the car.
That someone did it straight away. I think when it came out, someone just did it the same day and just put it out. Said, "Yeah, as if."
Okay.
That's how simple it is to do it. It's terrible. Excuse me, Andy. Talking Dogman. I know it's purely folklore. The Humber Reeds Island werewolf in the 1600 was allegedly caught by authorities and hung. It was obviously physical.
Yeah, and I remember you sending me some information on that, Andy, and fascinating, isn't it? But I mean, what's the chances of it being? It could have just been some crazy man that they've caught who thought he were a werewolf, and they all could be. But do you know what I mean? But like you said, he's obviously physical. Talking about Native American Indians, I mean, I exchanged a bit of information with an absolutely amazing guy called Larry Sespooch when I was wanting information about the Skinwalker, and Larry said that these creatures, these beings, whatever they are, have to abide and obey by the laws and the rules of our reality when they're here. So I'm not trying to just move goalposts with that one, Andy. But what if that were the case? You know, and he talked about intent as well. He says, and if you go into an area and burn sweetgrass and go in with good intent, then that's not the reaction, but that's the experience you'll have. It's because, you know, going, and maybe there's some truth in that. You know, maybe we create the reality for what the phenomena is going to interact with us. Maybe we create that. You know, I don't know. There are dark and sinister undertones to the stuff that we're looking into, and I don't think we go up there looking for it. So one part of my conversation or words contradict the other. Oh, I forgot tea here. I better have that.
Well, this is the whole genre is a contradiction in and of itself.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. Again, which it sort of ties in with the whole: are we manipulating and manifesting it and tweaking it, as you said earlier about it going over time? If let's take Dane's Dyke and Skinwalker. Let's say you've got your Native Americans at Skinwalker that were, you know, protective of the land. Maybe they had some land spirit there, and they may well have done in Neolithic times with Dane's Dyke. Is that whatever they created? Is it still roaming, but also in and of itself, is it changing?
Yeah, and evolving through time, and you're right. I mean, because, you know, I hate to keep talking about the Native American Indian and the Skinwalker, but then when we look at Dane's Dyke, we've got a place that's equally as ancient. We're going back 4,500 years. It's Neolithic. It's a Neolithic earthwork, and that's where it's been seen. And a lot of these things are seen here in the UK around earthworks, around ancient burial grounds, tumuli. And is it any different to other parts of the world where these strange and unusual things are seen that seem to be able to present, for want of a better word, and then just vanish without a trace? I think we're dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, I do.
All over the world. You know, I don't think we're dealing with a different phenomenon. I just think we're looking at it through different eyes. Different cultures have a different take on it. You know, what's this then? What did Pete say when he put torch on it? What did Pete say when he put the torch on it? Do you know, Linny? I don't know. Last night there was something lit up with a torch. At the back of the torch, a light appeared. But I don't. Pete puts the torch on quite a bit. I had to use a torch, but so Linny's going to tell me what Pete said in a minute, and then I'll go and light will come on in my head. Go on.
I don't know.
Last transmission, Starlink.
Lorraine,
are we talking about Elon Musk's Starlink? I assume.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay. So
what's that? Yeah, what's that? Jimmy Lee Dayton's just saying about the double slit experiment. Shows that things, when they're observed, they act within the, you know, they can act within the law of physics, and when they're not. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. What Linny said.
About it. Yeah, go on.
I'm not going to say it because Linny likes a joke. So
I see. Yeah.
I won't be thinking of that. What did Linny say when he put torch on it? And he said, So I put the torch on it, and I think Pete did as well. And he said, "Oh, I hope they're not going to come down and take us." But he said something else. But so that's all I'll do going there. Thanks, Lenny, for that. Yeah. Person.
Right. Yeah. Well, it happens. Allegedly.
Allegedly. So have we any more questions? Let's have a look. Maybe the Bempton cliff crew are being followed home. If so, this may affect the GPS. Well, there's another one that we've not touched on it. It weren't on the list. So any of you Americans who are doing research, or people other parts of Europe, have you found this? This is what we've found up there. The GPS anomalies. So and it's not happening all over the place. It's not happening in other parts with the same apps and the same phones, but you go up there and Ian will look at his phone, and we're all there as a collective, and we've done a 5-mile journey over fields and over land. 5 miles. Yeah. And Jeremy, different app, GPS just the same though. He's on the cliffs at Bempton. He's gone out to sea. Do you know? It doesn't add up. Why is it not doing it in other places? Because I think at these other locations around the world, these things have been happening as well, haven't they?
Yeah, and of course you have got that magnetic anomaly out at sea that's 25 miles out, which seems like a long way, but not really.
Yeah, and there's a thing called the Bempton fault that geologists have highlighted, and like you said, you've got the negative magnetic anomaly that's out there as well. And a guy I can't think of his, Alan Godfrey wrote an incredible book called Ships and Shipwrecks along the eastern North Yorkshire coast, and I saw Andy Ghost Whispering here earlier, and that's just come to my mind. Andy, if you're still in, message me, because I've got 2 copies of it, and I'm sure I said I was going to send you one, and I never did. And what he highlights is there's more shipwrecks around Bempton and Flamborough than anywhere else in the UK. But what the book also highlights is the compass anomalies. The people that had survived and said that they'd no idea they were near the rocks, no idea they were in a dangerous part of they thought they were further away than they were, and the compass had malfunctioned, and there's a lot of compass anomalies. I mean, that could be just something natural within the composite of the land that causes that. There's not forced to be looking at unexplained phenomena, are we? The GPS and dash cam footage was making. Yeah, that's true. So we're talking about where we've seen the flashes of light. So we're going back to the crossings. We're talking two flashes of light, the strange animal or thing that passes the top of the railway flashing lights, and the dash cam also makes clicking sounds as we're driving through that area. And you can highlight them when you put them into something like DaVinci Resolve or any program where you can look at audio. You know what I mean, Chris? Right. And you can see these big spikes, and you can actually predict when they're coming up. And that's what's been happening on all the occasions of these the lights and this strange animal or whatever it was. We're calling it an animal. We don't know what it was. You're getting these clicking sounds. And it was same other week, Sunday night, when I placed the audio equipment in Danes Dyke, and there's some more being put in now. And I put them in places that are well off the beaten track. They're not where any footfall is. And I don't know whether anybody in chat realised on Sunday what I was meaning. They've recorded for almost a week, and it doesn't timestamp it, but it just records any sound it hears. And somebody says, "Oh, it sounds like the recorder switching off." It's recorded everything: dusk, dawn, the dawn chorus, everything. It's not doing it. Those noises are only after the owls. So you've got the owls hooting, and then you hear the noise that either is a shotgun or a door shutting. It's weird, but I think I've highlighted 6. I'm going to put them all together, and I'd be interested when now these audio devices are out, if we continue to get that. Just a little bit of sidetrack there, didn't I, guys? So apologies. Right, go on.
Yeah, Steve Collins saying Alan Godfrey, my old school teacher.
All right, okay. I didn't. Well, I wouldn't know, would I? But that's good to know. I don't think he's very well at the moment, that fella, is he?
I don't know.
No, right. So Richie
saying,
Evans, a church in the UK, I believe, 1700s. Yeah, was attacked. Yeah, put me on the spot there, Richie, because it did attack, didn't it? That's in North Yorkshire. That's just up coast. And it's well documented, and it did attack. And didn't it leave marks on the church door, allegedly? And what else was to that question, Chris? Was there something else there? Oh, it's gone anyway. And the dog man, that was France. I remember that. I can't remember the name. Yeah, did they call him Stump? His surname, it was Stump, wasn't it? I think. And he was said to have. We'll just say he'd caused a lot of fatalities, younger people and women. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
So the Rivington Pipe says it sounds like a wooden gate to me, Paul. Each one sounds different. I'd actually got 3 the other night, but I didn't play the second one, the third one, because it sounded so much like one of the others, even though it was recorded at a different time. So I want to get all the ones that sound slightly different so that you guys can hear it. I don't know why we'd be hearing owl sounds unless there's some nasty person in there with a gun at night and looking for them and disposing of them, but I can't see why anybody would do that.
Is it worth putting trail cam out there, Paul?
There's one in there now, but they've got to be in such a discreet place, Chris, because otherwise everybody would see them and it won't last 5 minutes, would they? No. You know, they'd go, they'd be taken. So you've just got to tuck them away where you think nobody's going to go. You know, I'm off through. You can see little deer cuts and trails underneath brambles and everything, and I'm sort of getting in amongst stuff and putting them on those areas, because there's only one of the trail cams that's I don't know what they call it, a no light, so it's not giving out an infrared beam when anything crosses it. Others, anybody passing them at night, I'd be attracted to it. I wouldn't take it, and I can assure you. But I know people would, and I know people that have had the trail cams stolen. You know, I dropped a GoPro in.
I do, yeah.
You know, would. You've had one stolen?
No, I know people that have had them nicked. Yeah, it's an arsehole's trick, isn't it? But,
absolutely. You know, when I said I went into that little wood after looking at the sheep fatalities 2017 to 19, I'd drop into wood and I never saw anybody in it, but there were trail cams in it. So obviously people were going in it, you know, and odd times if they were moved, I'd end up near enough walking into face of one of them. So I'd just put my thumb up like that and walk past it, you know. But, so I don't know who'd put them in.
In the woods, you don't know what they're going to capture.
No.
Up near us, could catch all sorts of strange stuff. Not dog man, dog in.
Oh, right, okay.
More likely. Anyway, terrifying. Yes, Chris, he supposedly launched a Tesla with an astronaut mannequin. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, just
why?
Yeah, just ridiculous.
Not to worry. Hey, if he wanted to send us a few quid to aid the research and get a bit of land up there with some kind of building where we could observe and lots of people could go, I wouldn't be knocking it.
That is sort of where this needs to go, isn't it? I know.
Absolutely. You know, it's
years.
It's soul destroying. Stood up there in winter, you know, all kinds of weathers. We stand up there with ponchos on, waterproofs, all sorts. You know, it's absolutely harsh. It's brutal, but you know, and most of the time it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that land's not going to come up for sale anyway, is it? Let's be honest.
Well, it's a public right of way, and the actual place where the base is, I mean, that's just farmland, and it's farmed and it's worked. So that's not anything that's going to become available, which is a shame, because the old RAF buildings that are still there, apart from being full of cow crap and need, you know, they're pretty sound, they're pretty substantial. But there you go.
So they could be converted.
Absolutely, yeah. But as I say,
talk about researching the phenomena. You're right on top of it there. Anything could happen to you. Yes.
Well, it'd be a good spot. I see Mick Parks in. Good to see you, Mick.
Hi, Mick.
Yeah. So Mick's looked at that. The video at the beginning looks like the reflection on the window from the top of a Bluetooth speaker light. You know, Mick, you could be right. You know, we did question it. We're not questioning the lady who sent it us, because she seems pretty genuine. But that's the first thing we didn't say. I think Chris said an Alexa, or something like that. So yeah, I think you're on the money.
Yeah, that's just what it reminded me of was when I saw it. I know she's probably not got an Alexa, but I'm on the same page, Mick. I think it's just a reflection.
Yeah.
Again, completely accidental, mind.
Yep.
So I have got. What's that thing I've got now?
Yeah, Tom Waters in. Good to see you, Tom. Simon Riley, Matthew Cook. Let's have a look. Romney's Paranormal Adventures. And Lisa, we've seen Lisa. Banshee Studios, we've done that. And sorry for all names we've missed, guys, but we do appreciate your support. Yeah. If you're again the computer, which you obviously are, unless you're looking at it with your phone, press like and subscribe, please. And
yeah, I'd appreciate that, guys. And also, if you have watched the documentary, the short, and you haven't put a comment on, if you've got a minute, drop a comment on there. Just say something positive, would you?
Yeah, it's all out.
We usually do, guys. We usually do get a lot of comments. It's only every now and then that we get some negative stuff. And look, we don't know what we're dealing with. We don't profess to know what we're dealing with. But hey,
I don't. Yeah, good or bad, providing you're not being abusive. If you don't agree or you think it's something else, feel free to comment. If it's not abusive, it won't get removed. And I don't know whether anybody in here has commented and then thought their comments have been removed, because I've noticed it's happened on Truth Proof. I've never removed any, unless somebody actually started swearing or calling names. They'll stay. And
sometimes it will remove a random comment for no good reason at all. Why it does that, I have no idea.
Okay.
If the farmer would sell, Margaret Webster's put here, if the farmer would sell an acre, going price is about 15k.
It's accesses, though. You'd need access.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't
it? And everything else. I've got a friend who's got, I think he's got 72 acres on the cliff tops, and he's a good friend. And when we thought a big interested party were going to come up and do some work with us, which still might happen, I've already approached him. And, obviously they'll have to deal with him as regards renting an acre of land on top of cliff tops to do whatever we've got to do. But for us to get up there, it's just not as accessible. There's a track up there, but, you would need somewhere that's isolated, like what this guy's got on cliff tops. And I'll say he's got 72 acres up there. And I've walked round it with him and put it to him that they might be coming over from overseas and to do some work with us. And he's open to it. So we would have a location for that, but we're talking about something permanent. Difficult, really difficult.
It'd be great, wouldn't it? If you could have something permanent, you could have all the cameras in there, all very solid, secured, and
because I don't think there'd be any shortage of people wanting to participate. I don't mean make it a thoroughfare, but you would have no shortage of people wanting to participate and put time into it. So an area like that were done outright, it would be probably manned, womaned. Do you know what I mean? It would have people there, probably not 24 hours a day, but quite a big proportion of the day.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, if only you're not rent a building at RF Bempton, does farmers love money?
I don't know. I just leave them to what they're doing. They've got an hard enough living as it is, I think. I mean, we all love money, Lee. Let's face it. So
it's weird because I've looked at up and down that coastline for any land, and the problem you've got, Paul, is that you've got the farmland, haven't you? Then you're getting into tourist land, and wherever you've got it's beautiful views, and in summer it's absolutely stunning, and you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for that acreage.
It's public land. There's nowhere between Scarborough really and Hornsey that you couldn't walk. There's nothing that's out of bounds. It's public land. It's public right away. You've got the RSPB Nature Reserve, which people stand down there and they've got the viewing platforms, but it's on public land. It's a public walkway. So it's difficult. And why shouldn't public be able to walk it? I mean, I'd just like somewhere just to set up some kind of observational area, not to have cameras flashing and not to have all singing and whistles and things, just somewhere where we could go and observe. But as I say, everything's got a time and a place. If it happened, it happened. If it doesn't, we'd carry on doing what we do.
Yep. All right, mate. Well, that's it for another week. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you, everybody, for the donations. Thank you, Lorraine, for moderating again. Anything else, Paul, you want to add before we shoot?
No, I agree. Thanks for all the support, guys. Thank you, Lorraine. Thanks, Chris. See you next week.
All right, guys. I'll see you. Oh, sorry. No, there won't be a show next week.
Oh, we won't see you next week.
No, we won't see you next week, but you can catch Paul Thursday and you can catch him Sunday.
Maeve Calvert, and we're going to talk ley lines and dowsing. So, be something different.
All right, guys. See you later.
All right.